Good morning. It's actually very early. I was waking up thinking about non-human intelligence, UAP, consciousness and physics. Well, they're big subjects. Congratulations, we live in very interesting times. Right now in 2024, there seems to be a connection between the definition of non-human intelligence, UAP, consciousness and physics. I think maybe the first thing is to say this big statement, and that is, I don't know anything about any of those subjects. But from my research and some very basic understanding of science, I think there's something very interesting going on that might actually solve the big problem of flying saucers. Well, maybe. This is the big picture. Could us, and we regard ourselves as conscious entities in this universe, actually be no different to a plasma blob of electricity? Is it possible that we're not special? Probably. And the evidence to say that we're not special comes from UAP. Observers of UAP, which are real, by the way, often see these glowing balls of plasma ionized gas that apparently do things like you walk towards them and they move away. You retreat and they follow you. You look up and they appear in your field of view. Now, that implies that there's a non-human intelligence in the plasma ionized effect, that they might in fact be aliens, or they might have some kind of precognition about you, some intelligence, that they're up to something. Well, maybe they, the unusual, the highly strange, are conscious. And I'm putting two and two together because there's a lot of research right now to define what is consciousness in humans, how we feel connected to everything. And really interestingly, this is amazing science, how we become unconscious due to anesthesia. If you're an anesthesiologist or even an anaesthetist, same thing, different countries, you understand that making somebody unconscious means that you separate their conscious brain from the events that you're doing on them, like chopping off their leg or whatever. It's probably a good idea not to be conscious of that action. The earliest anesthetics, where doctors saw people become unconscious of their surroundings so they could operate on them, with things like ether and maybe oxygen deprivation. But the thing about being unconscious in an operating theatre is there's a fine line between keeping the patient alive and keeping them unconscious. And I think that opens a key to understanding maybe what consciousness is and how it works, and it is connected to basic physics properties such as an ionized state or plasma. I'm probably losing, oh God, I'm probably losing you because I'm a bit close to this idea right now. There's obviously a connection between an operating theatre, a non-human plasma effect, and how we work. So just scratching the surface, what is that connection? Well, I think it's very intriguing. I think the idea is that everything in the quantum state is connected. Our universe is one at the subatomic level. And of course, inside of us, we are one with the universe at a subatomic level. And we seem to be vaguely aware of that. Our religious beliefs of one God, or somehow connected to everything, that we are star children and part and connected to the universe, is actually true. But we live in this far-field state of solid lumps of matter that aren't quantum connected. Quantum physics only really works in a subatomic level. There's no real quantum physics in big stuff. But big stuff is made of little stuff, so there is a connection. And it's that interface between the quantum world and our big world that we might define as being conscious. It's the waveform collapse when quantized world changes or interfaces with the big far-field world that we live in, produces an effect. So smarter people than me think that when that quantum world decays and moves into, at the edge of subatomic into big stuff, there is a wave collapse, and that wave collapse gives everything, a connection to the connected, which we call consciousness. It gives us a perception of a bigger state of being. So this is the big point. We, who are made of many cells and millions and billions of atoms, who feel conscious, who have religion and are self-aware of our environment, are possibly no different from a single cell creature that has life, but is it conscious? Well, there's brilliant biology to show that when a single cell creature is, say, being eaten by an amoeba, it either moves away, or if it's being eaten, it shows examples of self-preservation. And that goes up the food chain, from single cell right to multi-cell complex organisms. I mean, I have lots of animals, goats, sheep, dogs, and cats. They are conscious. You know, they feel pain. I know that they're aware of their surroundings. They move away. They react to things. This horrific image is of a fox who gnawed its leg off when held in a trap. It had a feeling of self-preservation. Obviously, we know that. I mean, if you own pets, you know when they're suffering. You know that they feel happiness and pain and hunger. You know, they're conscious. But that consciousness, their internal feeling of connectivity and self-preservation, goes right down to single-cell amoebas. The really interesting new idea about consciousness is it's not just us. Yeah, we have it. You know, we saw that fox had it, and even single-cell amoebas have it. But so do atomic life. So does ionized gases, plasma, and maybe everything. Maybe because all those things, complex life, single cell life, and physics in the form of, say, ionized gas, which appears to be salient or have non-human intelligence and does things, moves away when you go close to it, is showing an aspect of self-preservation. Why would they all be connected? What's the connection between us having deep thoughts about religion and God and the afterlife, or a bunch of ionized gas moving away if meddling humans get too close to it? Well, there might be an answer, and that is quantum physics and its interface to big physics. The classic case about Schrodinger's cat, you know, the cat in the box. Only when somebody observes it can we tell whether it's in a dead state or still alive. And that was very much how quantum physics was defined for years, that it took the observer in the far field, the big world, us, or some device in the big world that uses big world far field physics to observe the cat. The quantum state, meaning states at different levels, quantized in steps, dead or alive, and in fact many more steps in energy levels, are suddenly frozen. You know, that when we observe it, they're fixed. But Roger Penrose, the Cambridge physicist, thinks the opposite. He thinks that the interface from the quantum world to the big world is predetermined. And in fact, we looking at it actually predict what's in the quantum world. I'm not sure if that's right, but I mean, he's got multiple PhDs, you know, and I'm a BA honours graduate, so he's probably correct. But back to biologists and anesthesiologists, anesthetists might hold the clue, because we seem to have these microtubules in our brain which actually work at a quantum level. And that might be our biological source of consciousness. They actually can do quantum calculations and interpret the near-field quantum world that gives us a constant feeling of self-being and self-preservation and connectivity to a religious order, God, as I say, or the universe. I mean, that's how religious leaders measure this form of consciousness, that we have. A spiritual connection, when in fact it probably is both a biological connection through this brain function of microtubules and purely a wave collapse as the quantum world interfaces with the far field world, the world that we all live in. And the interesting thing is it's not unique to living creatures, that non-human intelligence can be demonstrated by ionized gas, because if you put energy into it, normal far-field matter, such as our atmosphere, is being continually ionized, meaning normal atoms are being split apart, so there's no longer a magnetic or electromagnetic connection between them because they're too far apart. But they're always wanting to recombine. And when they recombine, they have to lose all that energy, that classically a German continuous wave radar fed into the atmosphere making Foo Fighters. I mean, that's a good example. That when they lose their energy, they produce photons because they have to throw away the energy. So classically, a ball of plasma at its center, at its focal point, is being ionized. So it's turning normal matter into an ionized gas. And at its edge, the periphery of the amount of energy you're putting into it, small amount of energy, small plasma ball, large amount, an enormous plasma ball, the sun, for example, or a plasma globe, very small. At that edge, and we see that in our sun, is where photons are produced. Inside the plasma, it's dark because plasma is absorbing energy. When you absorb energy, it doesn't produce photons. When you throw away energy, it releases photons as it recombines into the far-field normal world, and it joins back together into oxygen or air. It has to throw away the energy and it glows. I mean, it's as simple as that. But that process of being ionized and then recombined is actually a quantum process and has a very strong connection to this waveform collapse. In my understanding, and I've probably got so many things wrong here, so physicists out there, biologists, anesthesiologists out there, correct me. Roger, Penrose, if you're watching, hit me on the head with a large hammer. But it seems to me, who's a science filmmaker, not a physicist, that there is a connection between quantum physics and that waveform collapse and consciousness. I think everybody says that. But the interesting thing is, for you, who are all interested in UFOs and UAP, that it's possible that a highly strange effect such as a plasma blob, which has been defined very much as non-human intelligence and UAPs, and are seen all over the world, display characteristics of intelligence, and they might be alien, but they might not be. This is kind of what I'm saying, is that the physics of ionization is an extreme example of that bridge between the quantum world and the big field world that we live in. We have self-preservation. The single cell creature runs away from the amoeba that's eating it. And so just maybe the unknown anomalous phenomenon, or the unknown aerial phenomenon, I think it's actually anomalous, runs away because it is conscious. It has consciousness because it exists in this far-field world and it has an interface to the quantum. So it's not necessarily an alien. It's a part of physics which is conscious and displays just the same reaction to stuff that I do, my dog does, and a single cell amoeba thingy does. The truth is out there.